Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 9, Chapter 1, Text 1. Sri Rajovacha Manvantarane Sarvane Tavayoktane Srutane Me Viryane Ananta Viryasya Hares Tatra Kartanecha. The noble king said, all about the various Manus. All of them have been described by you and have been listened to by me. These wonderful activities of who has unlimited potency. Of the divine potency in these periods, performing also. And we're definitely fortunate to know of the spiritual things that we have been informed of. Text 2 and 3. Yo Sau Satyavrato Namarajarshir Dravidasvara Jnanam Yutita Kalpante Lebe Purusha Savaya Savaya Vivasvata Putro Manur Asid Ete Srutam Tavatas Tasya Sutta Prokta Ikshvaku Pramukha Nirpa. He who is known by the name Satyavrata, the sage king, the ruler of the Dravidians, whose knowledge was at the end of the last Manu, their cycles of time. He received this by rendering service to the Supreme, and he, indeed, of Vivasvan, was the son and became thus. I've already heard from you that his sons have been explained about and headed by Ikshvaku, and they were many kings. Text 4. Tasham Bamsam Perthag Brahman Vamsanucharitannecha Kirtayasva Mahabhaga Nityam Susrushatam Hina. All those dynasties separately were priestly, and their dynasties and characteristics kindly describe them. O greatly fortunate one, we are eternally in your service, indeed, as ourselves. Text 5. Ya bhuta ya bhavishyascha bhavante adyatanascha ye tashamna punya kirtinam sarvesham vada vikraman. All of whom have already appeared, all of who will appear in the future, and are existing at the present. Also, all of them unto us were pious and celebrated, all of them, explain about them as far as their abilities. Text 6. Sri Suta Uvacha Evam Parikshita Rajna Sadase Brahmavadinam Prashta Provacha Bhagavan Chuka Paramadharmavit. The noble Sutta was saying in this way about Parikshit, the king in the assembly, with all the greatly expert in knowledge priests, having answered them about the most powerful, about Sukha, about the encompassing social order, so the religious one, because other social orders are limited to their kingdom and their time and all that. He was the most learned. So Sukha was the most learned about God and religion. Text 7. Sri Sukha Uvacha Sruyatam Manavo Vamsa Prachuyana Parantapana Sakyate Vistarato Vaktum Varsha Satagir Ape. The noble Sukha was saying, listen, the Manu dynasty, I'll say it as expansively as possible, O subduer of enemies, one's not able to very broadly speak about them, even if they do for hundreds of years. Now, when it comes to some figures, so many people spoke about them with so many different perceptions and angles of witnessing that, to go over all that takes hundreds of years. And, it could be important to maintain that, even if no one person is going to be able to maintain it, right? Text 8. No one person other than that individual and their life. Text 8. Paravaresham bhutanam atmayah purusha parasa evasid eran visvam kalpante nyanna kinchana. Of the living entities and the higher and lower statuses of those who take material bodies, the super soul, the one who is the supreme person, transcendental, and he indeed was existing in this universe at the end of the last kalpa. That's the thing that's like 4.32 billion years, right? Anything else? There's not anything else whatsoever. So, God was when there was nothing else. And who was it? Dark Matter was posted a video that it was recommended to me. I watched a bunch of his cartoons, cartoon little videos at some point. A deity that transcends time, space, and matter is exactly what you would expect for an entity that could create these things. An entity that's truly a causal has to be beyond our, the terms of the creation. Text 9. Tasyana beh samabhavat padma kusho hiranmaya tasmin jajne maharaja svayambus chatur ananna. Of him, from the navel generates a lotus known as Ranmaya, the golden, and on that appeared the king, self-manifested, taking birth without a mother, with 4 heads. So again, one of those things that you see in different mythologies. In the book of Ezekiel, we have the four-headed understanding, right? Text 10. Marichirmanasastasya jajnetasya pekasya pa dakshayanyam tato dityam va... Vivasvanabhavat sutta. The saintly person from the mind took birth from Marichi and took birth in the womb of the daughter of Daksha, and thereafter in the womb of Aditya, Vivasvan took birth a son. So some of that genealogical stuff. Texts 11 and 12. Tato manu srandareva samjnayam masabharata sradayam janayam masadasa putran sa atmavan ikshvaku nirga saryate dishta drishta karushakan narishyantam parshadram cha nabhagam cha kavim vibhu. From Sradadeva in the womb of Samjana was born the best of the Indians. You know, Indian is in India. Bharata. In the womb of Shraddha was begotten 10 sons, and that who conquered his senses, named Ikshvaku, Nirga, Saryate, Dishta, Darshta, and Kurushaka, Narishyanta, Prashadram, and Prashadra, Bhagam, Kavi the Great. And did I leave out the name because I thought something was translation? No, I guess not here. Text 13. Aprajasya mano purvam vasishto bhagavan kila mitra varunayor ishtem prajartham akarod vibhu. Of he who had no son, of Manu, formerly, the great saint Vasishtha, of the divine personality, indeed, of the go-betweens, you know, Mitra and Varuna, was a sacrifice for the sake of getting sons carried out by that great person. Text 14. Tatra srada mano patni hotaram samayachata duhitrartham upagamya pranipatya payovrata. In that sacrifice, Srada of Manu, the wife to the priest that does the sacrifice, begged properly for a daughter, coming near, offering her obeisances, and she was observing the milk fast, which for only about 10% of people is this even something considered remotely healthy. But, people do have the genetics, particularly when you're talking about some of the Mongolians, the Hindus, the race, the Persians, some people like to say Iranian, the Arabs, some people like to say Semites. Text 15, those are races that can pretty well handle milk. And for a good amount of them, but for about 60% of the world, milk's not something they should have if they can avoid it. Text 15, Prasheto dvaryunahuta vyacharatat samahita garhita havishevacha vashat karamgurnan divija. Being told to carry out the sacrifice by the priest in charge of the oblations priest that carried out the sacrifice in that way, with a great attention, with the clarified butter for the first oblation ritual, and chanting the mantra beginning with Vashat, and reciting was the priest. Sometimes you can just say the word Vashat. And what does that mean? Text 16. Hotustad vyabicharana kanyala nama sabhavat tamvelokya manu praha natetushtamana gurun. Of that priest, by that transgression of the daughter named Ilah, and seeing that daughter was born unto her, seeing Manu, didn't say very much, and it was not satisfying unto his guru. He wasn't satisfied. And that's why he ended up speaking to his guru. And, well, okay, so it's saying that because the priest was distracted, a daughter was born instead of a son. And it doesn't work that way. But more literally, outside of the comment, it says that a transgression resulted in a daughter. So sometimes the husband would have been infertile and the wife would have been unfaithful. And so that could be what is meant. But we're not having explicit details towards that. Text 17. Bhagavan yemidam jatam karma vu brahma vadinam viparyayamahu kashtam maevam syad brahma vikreya. The divine personality, what is this? That is born of fruit of acts, all of you who are expert in scriptural mantras, the deviation is painful. Alas, that it should not have been this opposite action of the absolute spiritual forms. Okay, so this is why the comment was totally certain upon the idea that it was a mistake in the ritual. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu in Sikh Shastaka 1, Chatodarpanam arjanam bhavamaha Davagninirvapanam Sreya Kairava Chandreka Vitaranam Vidyavadu Jivanam Anandam Buddha Vardhanam Prate Param Purnam Murtasvadanam Sarvatma Snapanam Param Vijayate Sri Krishna Sankirtanam. Glory to the hymns that cleanse the heart of all the dust acquired over the years and extinguishes the conditional fires of life, repeating birth and death, aka hell. This spiritual movement is to benefit all humanity, spreading the rays like a beneficial moon. It's a life of transcendent knowledge, increasing transcendent bliss, and enables us to taste its nectar, and for that we are anxious. Bhagavatam, Canto 11, Chapter 5, Text 32. Yajnai Sankirtana Prayayir Yajante Hi Sumedasa. Those with intelligence are going to do the greatest sacrifice, which is the congregational chanting. Text 18. Yuyam Brahma Vedo Yuktas Tapasa Dagda Kilbisha Kruta Sankalpa Vaish Amyam Anratam Vibudashav Iva. All of you that are totally aware of the absolute, self-controlled and well-balanced, through austerity and penance and all kinds of material contaminations have been removed, then how is there discrepancy in determination, false promises, false statements in the society of demagogues? Okay, are in the society of demagogues. Switch the translation order of the last two words. I mean, the Iva means or, but yeah. Text 19. Ne samya tadvachas tasya bhagavan prapitamahah hutur vyatekramam jnatva babashe ravinandanam. After hearing those words of him, the divine personality, because they're speaking what was revealed, the grandfather, Vashishtha, saw the discrepancy on the part, understood the discrepancy on the part of the priest, and spoke unto Va'iv Asvata Manu. Which is generally referred to as the son of the sun god, which we've already seen in other passages how daughter and son is not always literally daughter and son sort of thing. Text 20. etat sankalpa vaish amyam hotuste vyabicharata tathape sadayishyate suprajastvam svatajasa. This discrepancy of objective of the priest, and you're deviating from your prescriptions, still, I'll carry out for you a very nice son by my own prowess. So what, they're canceling the fact that she was going to give birth to a son or changed it to a boy? Is that what they're saying? Text 21. Evam vyavasitu rajan bhagavan samaha yasa astaushid ade purusham ilaya pumstava kamyaya. Thus, deciding, O king, the divine personality that's very famous, prayers were offered unto that supreme by Illa for the transformation into a male. Okay, so she was praying to Bhagavan, and yeah, just the order kind of throws you off sometimes when you're comparing two languages. Text 22. Tasmae kamavaram tushto Bhagavan harir isvara dadav ila bhavat tena sudyumnah purusharshabah. Unto him was the desired benediction, and he was pleased by the potency and the supreme control of the personality of God. And he gave Illa, and it became because of the benediction by Sudyumna, a nice male. Text 23 and 24. Saekada Maharaja Vicharan Murgayam Vane Vrta Kate Payamatyayir Asvam Ruhya Saindavam Prangrahya Ruchiram Chapam Saramscha Paraman Bhutan Dam Setu Numrangam Vivro Jagama Desam Utaram. That once upon a time, the great king explored about, hunting in the forest, accompanied by a few ministers or associates on a horse, born in Sindhu Pradesa, holding in his hand a beautiful bow and arrows. Uncommon armor was worn by him. The animals behind the hero. He went towards the north. Perhaps they mean he traveled the forest north until it got so cold that there wasn't a forest. But we don't have those details. Could be one of those geographical myths. Text 25. Sukumaravanam meror adastat pravivesaha yatraste Bhagavan charvo Ramamanna Sahumaya. Or isn't there that big desert over in the China area or Russia area? So it could be that too. Of course, the Russia area, it's pretty cold. So the Sukumara forest at the foot of Mount Meru he entered, whereupon there was the Divine Personality, who in this example is known as Sarva, which is a name under the division of Shiva. But again, divine names ends up all the same thing, right? The creator and the destroyer and the maintainer are all the same deity. Ultimately. So engaged in enjoyment with Uma, his wife. Okay, so there was the incarnated representative of Shiva that he came across, who was, of course, by whom at that time and place ultimate divinity was known about. Very complex way of saying a prophet, but yeah. Text 26. Tasmin pravishta evasau sudyumna paraviraha apasyat streyam atmanam asvam cha vadavam narpa. And that forest that he entered, certainly he, Sudyumna, who could very well subdue his enemies, observed the female himself and his horse, a mare, O King Parikshit. Oh, so he was transformed into a female and his horse became a mare. Well, there's certain things regarding the symbolism of reincarnation as hell that could indicate that. And even outside of the reincarnated idea, there's lessons to learn from that too. Text 27. Tatha taranugah sarve atma lenga viparyayam dashtava vimanaso bhuvan vikshamanah parasparam. Similarly, all the companions transformed their sex to the opposite, seeing the moroseness. Oh, they were all very upset and just looked at one another. Well, there's that. And let's be honest, they're the opposite gender now, but inside they're still really what they really are, and they're seeing each other as women, and they're still men, so you know why they're looking about. But they're upset because of what's happened to them, and Text 28. Sri Rajovacha Katham Evam Uno Desah Kenava Bhagavan Krta Prasnam Ennam Samachakshva Param Ka Utuhalam Henah. The noble king said, "How is this quality in this country? Why is either, O Divine Personality?" Okay, how was either done? And we question this. Was it deliberate? Very much eagerness? Indeed are. Okay. Yeah, they're very anxious to find out what's going on, why it's the case, and, of course, why is divinity not interfered. Text 29. Sri Suka Uvacha Ekada Girisam Drashtum Rashayas Tatra Suvrata Desovitim Mirabasa Kurvanta Sambupagaman. The noble Sukha said, once upon a time, Girasham saw very saintly people in the forest. They were elevated in spiritual power in all directions, and they were cleared of all darkness. And that's how they, arrived. Text 30. Tan vero kyambeka devi vivasa rideta persam partur ankat samutaya nivim asab atha paryadat. Now, before I mention about that translation, we think of the stages of love by and for God. We have the servant master. We have the friend. We have the parent-child. We have the spouse. Oh, and we have the socially inappropriate. So we switch, as whatever gender we are, and then the other is, okay, because we haven't completely addressed that side of existence, perhaps. This is maybe what's going to happen. But your relationships in the first 4 stages, no matter what side of those relationships are you, it's for deity. Like people saying, I love you for the sake of Allah, or however they say that in Arabic, or whatever language. It's the same principle. It's not that they don't have any reason otherwise. It's that it's just they put things into that context. I mean, maybe, All these, when they were seen, Ambika, the light being, because she was naked, was ashamed, and highly because of her husband, from the lap got up, the breast very quickly covered with cloth. Okay, so she covered up when she saw this and switched them because the rules are a bit lax or when it comes to the same gender. So, okay, maybe it wasn't for, a different purpose, right? Or perhaps it was that in order so that there wasn't problems, she switched the appearance over or the perception over, and that will be lifted later. We'll see. Text 31. Rashayo peteyor vikshya prasangam ramamanayo nivrata prayayus tasman naranarayanasramam. All the sagely ones, also both of them seeing the engagement, and who were enjoying in that way, desisted from going further. They immediately departed from that place to the, the spiritual retreat of, on the edge. Narayana could be seen kind of like the Lazuvima term Zipti, as sort of, on the boundary, on the extreme, but transcendent at the same time. Kind of the fool card of the tarot. And no disrespect, like when you say, oh, fool, it's not that sort of thing. Text 32. Taridam bhagavanaha preyayah preya kamyaya satanam yah pravised etat savaye yoshid bhaved itte. Because this divine personality said of his dear wife, for the pleasure, the place, anyone who will enter here, that person indeed will be female. Thus, okay. Text 33. Tata udvam vanantad vae purusha varjayante he sachanuchara samyukta vichachara vanad vanam. From that time onward, in that forest, the males don't enter, certainly, except in the female form, and accompanied with companions. They walked in the forest from one place to the other. And it also teaches us that the soul is beyond gender. Text 34. Athatammasramabhyase charantim pramadottamam strebe parivratam vikshya chakame bhagavan Buddha. In that way, in the neighborhood of his retreat, they loitered as the best of the beautiful women who caused desire by the other women that surrounded, seeing her, and we already had another term for her, the Tom is her, and Viksha is also rendered as her. Desired sex, the divine personality, was known by the enlightened. And okay. Okay, Sudyumna is the her we're referring to. So, one of the Buddhas, who was still male, saw him as a woman and desired her like other women. It's important to know people, right? Then you won't have those problems. Text 35. Sapetam chakame subru sumaraja sutam patim satasyam janayam asa pururavasam atmajam. That also unto him desired sex, and he, well, it's really he, we find out with otherwise, was very beautiful unto the son of the king of the moon as her husband. He begot in her womb. Pururava was their son. Now, there are dreams that people have where they're pregnant and it's the wrong gender, and it doesn't mean that they're gay, or it doesn't mean that something like this happened. There are other imports to that, and we have this. The Enlightened One, King, Son of the Moon. I was reading a book, and in this Adamson's book, there was, the moon level, and they interact with the moon entity, and there's desire filled and stuff like that associated with it. Text 36. Avam stritvam anupraptah sudyumno manavo nurpa sasmara sakulacharyam vasishtam itte susrum. Got stuck in my words. Susruma is I heard it, reliably. In this way, femininity achieved its way. Sudyumna, the son of Manu, the king, remembered. He, as the familiar as the family spiritual master, the most powerful Vasishtha. Okay, so Vasishtha passed on this story. And again, sometimes in the traditions, the dreams or visions get rendered in as physical experiences, but, miracles do happen, right? Text 37. Satasya tam dasam drštva krpaya Parsa pideta sudyumnasya sayan pumstvam upadavata sankaram. He of that condition, seeing out of mercy, being aggrieved regarding sudyumnasya, desiring maleness, began to worship Sankaram. Okay, so the most auspicious deity of judgment, deity of destruction, was called upon to rectify this obviously distressing situation. Text 38 and 39. Tushtas tasmae sa bhagavan rashaya priyam avahan savam cha vacham rattam kurvan idam ha visampate masam puman sabhavat bhavita masam stritava gutraja itam vyavastaya kamam sudyumno vatu medenim. Being pleased under that, he, the divine personality, under the sage, just to please him, made his own words true, and keeping to this, O King Parikshit, in a month, made that a male. Oh, a male that will become another month, female, your disciple born in your disciplic succession, in this way by settlement, according to the desire of King Sudyumna, may rule the world. Oh, as he likes. So the soul that had the complete experience could rule more completely. Text 40. Acharyanugrahat kamam lamdva pumstabam vyavastaya palayam masa jagatim navyanandan smatam praja. By the spiritual master's mercy, his desire was achieved. The maleness by the settlement as he ruled the world. And, the citizens were not satisfied with this. But part of this was because they didn't consider it okay for a female to rule. So they didn't consider it valid every time it switched back and forth. Only when it was a male were they content with this. But deity was okay with that. Text 41. Tas yud kalo geyo rajandam alascha traya sutta dakshina patha rajano babuvur dharma vatsala. Of that, by the name Utkala, by the name Gaya, O King Parikshit, Vimala, and the three sons of the southern part of the world, kings were what they became in a very religious way. Now, a religious state doesn't mean they're forcing religion on people. Don't let Christendom fool you to think that that's what it is. But when it's not a religious state, then they're indoctrinating people in a secular way. So, text 42, ta parnatikale pratisthana pate prabhu pururavasa utsarjya gamputraya gato vanam. Thereafter, when the time was ripe, the master of the kingdom was very powerful unto Pururava, and delivered the world unto his son as he departed into the forest. And, well, it's good that politicians, regardless of what type of political order one's in, quit at some point. Before they end up not being qualified. Or, well, in this day and age, it's not so much that they're not qualified anymore, that they lose ability. They just are so bought off. And perhaps they've worked through the things that they can do in office, and it's time for someone else to take the place. And of course, in this culture that we're talking about, they pass it on to the son. And so we're going to talk about Karusha. We're going to talk about how you may not be able to tell things apart if some things are obscured. And there's different types of devotees and different types of worship. And we're all supposed to find some sort of perfection, or perfect ourselves as best as we can before we return